Absolute cinema. Christopher Nolan's Odyssey was everything I wanted it to be. Before I get into everything, I'm going to give you a fair spoiler warning. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want to get spoiled, click off this video and come back to it after you watch the movie. Just putting that out there now before I start talking about the movie. I just got back from watching opening night of the Odyssey, and I walked out of that theater with a big old smile on my face, and honestly, I would go watch it again. If you want a short answer, it's an amazing movie. We all knew this going into it. It's Christopher Nolan. Christopher Nolan don't miss, okay? So everybody knew this. That's why you're going to go watch it. That's why everybody's watching it. Christopher Nolan. And not on top of that, they had an amazing freaking cast for this movie. Honestly, this movie reminded me what I love so much about the theater and what I love so much about a good new film being released. The cast was incredible. The visuals were freaking amazing. And on top of that, I think Christopher Nolan depicted the story of the Odyssey perfectly. I read the Odyssey a really long time ago during school, my freshman year of high school. It was a very memorable story because the Odyssey is one of the best books ever written. So I kind of knew everything that was going to happen, but still was just surprised about how good everything was depicted in this film. So let's talk about why I love this movie. First, I just want to talk about Matt Damon, the lead role. He played Odysseus in the movie, and they couldn't have casted that any better. Matt Damon absolutely fucking killed it, man. That guy, he just depicted Odysseus in the best possible way. Odysseus, if you don't remember from the story or if you've never read the Odyssey, Odysseus is basically a fearless warrior who doesn't just run into every battle. He's very clever, and that's the best thing about him. He's clever and knows how to outsmart and think about everything for everyone around him. Matt Damon perfectly captured the confidence that Odysseus had in the movie. He not only did well with Odysseus's confidence in the film, I think he also did well with the emotional aspects when you could see the long journey was starting to take a toll on him. By the end of the movie, he played a perfect character of somebody who had been on a very long journey, spending years fighting just to make it home. I'm going to give my flowers to Matt Damon. Brother absolutely freaking killed it. Now we'll talk about some of the supporting cast, because this movie wouldn't have been made a great movie if it was just Matt Damon killing it. The supporting cast also did amazing. Tom Holland absolutely killed it as Telemachus. Anne Hathaway was amazing as Penelope. She was a great role in the movie. Zendaya also killed her role. And even fucking Travis Scott, you wouldn't think that he's like a good actor. He didn't have a very significant role, but even Travis Scott's acting wasn't terrible. Like, it didn't ruin the movie. It wasn't like a celebrity cameo. It felt like he was naturally meant to be there. So shout out Travis Scott in that acting role as well in this huge movie. Big dubs for him. Even with the stacked cast, it felt like everybody in this movie just had their own purpose and everybody played their role pretty well. I also forgot about Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson was kind of like the villain in the movie, and he also did a great job of like making you like just absolutely fucking hate him. And by the time he got slimed at the end of the movie, you were just hyped that he got slimed. I sure as hell was so hyped when he got slimed. It's a Christopher Nolan movie, so the visuals are going to be freaking amazing. But the movie was just like absolutely gorgeous, bro. Like, the ocean was great. I think even like the CGI moments of like the Cyclops or the sirens were also done really well. One of the visuals I liked the most in the movie was the scene. What were they? They were sailing away from some certain island, and there was just like Poseidon was punishing them with crazy seas and like crazy storms, and there was just lightning, and it was a good 2 minutes of like lightning, but the lightning was just amazing. You could just tell like all the characters were struggling in this crazy storm. But yeah, that's another huge W of the movie is the visuals did not miss whatsoever. I think my personal favorite had to be like the lightning scene, and then on top of that, I think the Cyclops looked sick. Because when I read the book, I think I had a different image of a Cyclops in my head. But in the movie, that shit was scary. Like that was a scary monster, It wasn't no Mike Wazowski. It was some big behemoth fucking nasty creature. Christopher Nolan always knows how to make movies and things feel larger in real life. So if you're thinking about waiting to watch this movie on streaming, I absolutely do not recommend that. And I recommend you go watch this in theaters. And if not just theaters, I recommend that you watch it in IMAX. Another thing that I think was really great about this movie is just how perfectly it told the story of the Odyssey. It depicted the story perfectly. It didn't change anything, it didn't add anything. It just went straight off the book, and you couldn't ask for that more. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times when books are adapted, directors like to try to change little things here and there, but they didn't do that at all in this movie, which I think was an amazing idea, and it stuck to the script, stuck to the story. It was brilliant. Obviously, you're not able to fit every ancient, like, epic thing that happened back then, but I mean, they sure as hell packed as much as they possibly could into this 3-hour runtime movie. I also want to talk about, like, my favorite scenes that stood out to me personally. First, this was near the beginning of the movie, was the Cyclops scene. That scene was sick, man. It was like I said earlier, the Cyclops was terrifying. All the characters were scared as fuck. The Cyclops was eating them, and then the way they outsmarted the Cyclops and stabbed him in the eye and ran away and got back to the boats. Perfect scene there. Another scene that I also liked a lot was I liked how they told the story of the Trojan horse, because that's an ancient story that everybody knows about. But this was probably the best visual that you could possibly get from that. How gory it was and how smart that the Trojan horse actually was. And they also did a good job of showing that, like, the Trojan horse wasn't a great thing that happened, because it was supposed to be a peace treaty, and then it turned up into them literally, like, burning an entire city down and, like, killing women and children and everything. So they also did a good job at portraying that, like, the Trojan horse wasn't a good thing. By the end of the movie, you could tell that the Trojan horse was a true tragedy to not only the people that died in that city, but also to the people who were involved in it, like Odysseus himself. The last scene I'll talk about was just the last fighting scene when Odysseus returns home and takes back his throne, gets back his queen, and Telemachus and him are fighting alongside each other. That was just that tension was built up the entire movie. So just to close out the movie with that scene was just, it was, like I said earlier, absolute freaking cinema, man. You felt tension anytime there was trouble. You felt tension, because if you've read the Odyssey, you know that, like, after one obstacle, the story isn't over, man. It's a freaking adventure. So you could feel the tension from them leaving one scene to the other, knowing that they're about to just enter even more trouble. Christopher Nolan also did an amazing job at building tension in this freaking movie, man. I also really appreciated how long the journey felt. I mean, the movie was 3 hours, and in the story, years pass. Friends keep dying, hope starts disappearing, and hope does disappear at one point. You know what I'm saying? And by the time Odysseus finally reaches Ithaca, you feel exhausted alongside him, because he was fucking tired, and you could tell, how hard he fought to get back home. And that's why the end scene felt so rewarding, because it felt earned. And because of that, the ending just hit so much freaking harder, man. If I have to have one criticism of the movie, okay, this movie's still an absolute banger, so take this with a grain of salt. I'm not being a hater. But if I had to have one criticism, it's a really small one. And it's Samantha Morton's performance as Circe, this, like, the evil sorceress that turns Odysseus's men into pigs. For most of the movie, I mean, she didn't have that long of a scene, but for most of her scene, she did really good. Like, when the men first show up, eat her meat, and then she turns them all into pigs. For me, it was like when Odysseus returned and came back to her to convince her to restore his men. I felt like her emotional aspect of the acting just wasn't all there, because you could kind of tell she was on bullshit. The acting wasn't quite there, and that was like the one small maybe critique. But even then, it doesn't ruin anything, because it was still a great scene overall. It didn't ruin the movie, and it's a small critique in an otherwise freaking fantastic film. But if I had to give a critique, this is what I'll give, okay? But I think, no hate to her, she still fucking killed it. But if I had to critique anything, it was that. I already talked about the ending a little bit, but the ending is exactly what you wanted. After everything Odysseus goes through and everything Odysseus survives, the war, the monsters, the people dying, the storms, the gods trying to stop him. Watching him come back home was so satisfying, and his reunion with Penelope also wasn't rushed. They also built that up for about 45 minutes. So by the time they finally reunited in the end, it was so freaking satisfying. And also, I loved Penelope's freaking dedication that she had to like staying faithful and believing that he was still alive, and he really was still alive in the end of the movie. My final thoughts of the movie: you gotta go watch this shit. It's an amazing movie. If you've read the book, you're gonna love how they depicted the book in this film. If you haven't read the book, still go watch it, because then you get to see this amazing story told on screen for the first time. So my final thoughts: this movie's an absolute fucking banger. Christopher Nolan delivered like always yet again. Matt Damon once again killed it. The visuals were amazing, and it helps me remember that the Odyssey is one of the greatest stories ever, hands down. Argue with the wall if you don't agree. For me, it's an easy rating, okay? This movie's a 9.5 out of 10. Honestly, I don't feel like you can give anything a 10 out of 10, but it's a 9. It's the closest thing to a fucking 10 out of 10 that you can get. Remember, guys, I'm not a real movie critic, okay? So if you don't agree with me and you're a real movie critic, fuck you, okay? This is just Jayden Cuzo's rating. I don't care what you think. This is just my current in my brain rating. That's what I'm gonna go with. 9.5 out of 10. Make sure you guys go watch this movie. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.